Saturday, November 11, 1944, as the rain settled into the rutted roads of northeastern France and the guns of World War II continued their distant thunder, General George S. Patton stood before officers of the U.S. Third Army, already known across continents as a commander whose very name carried fear, discipline, and controversy in equal measure. Patton did not become America's most feared commander by accident, nor solely through battlefield victories, but through a deliberate cultivation of reputation that blended performance, psychology, and history during World War II. From his earliest days as a cavalry officer, Patton believed that fear, properly directed, was a weapon, and that command required not comfort but emotional impact, a philosophy he refined long before World War II erupted. He studied ancient warfare obsessively, drawing lessons from Roman legions and Napoleonic campaigns, concluding that morale often decided battles before the first shot was fired in World War II. Patton understood that soldiers responded not just to orders, but to symbols, tone, and certainty, and he consciously shaped himself into a figure larger than life during World War II. The polished helmet, ivory-handled pistols, and theatrical language were not vanity alone, but calculated tools designed to imprint authority instantly during World War II. Patton believed that hesitation at the top spread paralysis downward, so he projected absolute confidence even when privately uncertain during World War II. His speeches emphasized aggression, speed, and relentless pressure, reinforcing the idea that survival depended on forward motion in World War II. This message resonated deeply with troops facing the chaos of modern industrial warfare, where clarity was rare and fear constant in World War II. Patton's early combat experience in North Africa demonstrated his willingness to impose discipline ruthlessly, replacing ineffective commanders without hesitation during World War II. He believed fear of failure was healthier than complacency, and that discomfort forged resilience necessary for survival in World War II. His removal of commanders after defeats sent a message that rank did not guarantee security, only performance did, a principle that defined his reputation in World War II. Patton's insistence on appearance, punctuality, and precision reinforced predictability under stress, conditions he believed reduced panic during World War II. He viewed discipline not as cruelty, but as preparation, arguing that soldiers trained to endure hardship would perform better in combat during World War II. Patton's reputation spread rapidly among Allied and Axis forces alike, amplified by press coverage and enemy intelligence assessments during World War II. German commanders came to associate his presence with rapid movement and aggressive exploitation, contributing to his psychological impact during World War II. Patton consciously encouraged this perception, understanding that fear could influence enemy decisions before contact during World War II. His role in deception operations reinforced this image, as German intelligence fixated on Patton as the spearhead of Allied invasion plans during World War II. Patton accepted temporary sidelining after controversy because he understood that his symbolic value outweighed immediate command during World War II. When he returned to combat leadership, his reappearance magnified fear precisely because of the mystique cultivated during World War II. Patton's Third Army operations demonstrated his belief that speed compensated for numerical and logistical limitations, a gamble that repeatedly paid off in World War II. He pushed units beyond standard endurance limits, convinced that momentum prevented enemy recovery during World War II. This relentless tempo exhausted both his troops and the enemy, but Patton calculated that exhaustion favored the attacker psychologically in World War II. He rejected static warfare, associating defensive posture with defeat, a lesson reinforced by early campaigns of World War II. Patton's fearsome reputation among Americans stemmed partly from his intolerance for excuses, demanding accountability regardless of circumstance during World War II. He publicly berated officers who hesitated, believing humiliation preferable to battlefield failure in World War II. Privately, however, Patton agonized over casualties, revealing a complex leader whose harsh exterior masked deeper concern during World War II. His diaries show awareness that fear motivated but also risked alienation, a balance he struggled to maintain during World War II. Patton believed that commanders must absorb hatred directed at them to spare their units from indecision during World War II. This willingness to be disliked reinforced his authority, as subordinates interpreted consistency as strength during World War II. Patton's use of language amplified his image, employing blunt, violent metaphors to strip war of abstraction during World War II. He believed euphemism dulled urgency, and that stark language prepared soldiers for reality in World War II. His speeches were carefully structured, beginning with identity, moving through mission, and ending with inevitability during World War II. Patton framed success as destiny, tapping into collective belief to override fear during World War II. This approach resonated in a war defined by scale and uncertainty, where personal agency felt diminished during World War II. Patton's emphasis on initiative empowered junior leaders, reinforcing trust while maintaining strict standards during World War II. He tolerated mistakes made in motion more than caution that sacrificed opportunity during World War II. This philosophy rewarded boldness, reinforcing his reputation as a commander who demanded courage under pressure in World War II. Patton's fearsome image extended upward as well, unsettling superiors who worried about political consequences during World War II. He navigated this tension carefully, moderating public behavior while preserving operational aggression during World War II. Patton's understanding of media influence allowed him to shape narratives without revealing tactical detail during World War II. He selectively engaged correspondence, reinforcing myth while protecting substance during World War II. His reputation among civilians was equally complex, blending admiration, fear, and controversy during World War II. Patton viewed war as a contest of wills, believing that breaking enemy confidence mattered more than territory during World War II. This belief guided his pursuit strategies, aiming to disrupt cohesion rather than annihilate units during World War II. Patton's operational audacity forced German commanders into constant reaction, amplifying psychological stress during World War II. German reports frequently cited Patton's unpredictability, reinforcing fear disproportionate to actual strength during World War II. Patton embraced this effect, understanding that perceived threat could substitute for material superiority during World War II. His insistence on forward command posts symbolized shared risk, strengthening loyalty while increasing personal danger during World War II. Patton believed visibility created accountability, reinforcing discipline through presence during World War II. His commanders knew that failure would be noticed immediately, reinforcing urgency during World War II. Patton's intolerance for retreat stemmed from belief that withdrawal invited collapse, a lesson drawn from historical study and World War II experience. He accepted tactical withdrawal only when it enabled greater offensive opportunity during World War II. This rigidity contributed to both success and criticism, shaping his fearsome image during World War II. Patton's reputation among Allied troops combined admiration with apprehension, as soldiers respected competence while fearing discipline during World War II. He believed fear and respect were intertwined, arguing that affection was unreliable in combat during World War II. Patton's leadership style reflected generational experience shaped by earlier conflicts, adapted to mechanized warfare during World War II. He emphasized synchronization of armor, infantry, artillery, and air power, reinforcing momentum during World War II. Patton rejected isolated heroics, prioritizing system effectiveness over individual valor during World War II. His emphasis on training realism exposed troops to stress before combat, reducing shock during World War II. Patton believed that suffering endured in training saved lives in battle during World War II. This philosophy contributed to resentment but ultimately enhanced performance, reinforcing his fearsome reputation during World War II. Patton's moral certainty projected stability in chaos, a quality many soldiers valued despite personal misgivings during World War II. He framed war as a test of character, not merely skill, reinforcing ethical dimension during World War II. Patton's personal courage reinforced credibility as he shared exposure to danger during World War II. He believed leaders must demonstrate willingness to die to justify demanding sacrifice during World War II. Patton's physical presence near the front symbolized commitment, reinforcing trust through example during World War II. His critics argued that such behavior risked command continuity, but Patton believed symbolism justified risk during World War II. Patton's fearsome image extended into enemy propaganda, which exaggerated his ruthlessness, reinforcing myth during World War II. He understood that myth shaped behavior and allowed exaggeration to persist during World War II. Patton's complex relationship with fear included recognition that fear sharpened focus, a lesson he applied deliberately during World War II. He believed soldiers feared uncertainty more than danger and worked to eliminate ambiguity during World War II. Patton's clarity of intent reduced hesitation, reinforcing tempo during World War II. He accepted that fear of punishment motivated compliance, but aimed to convert it into pride during World War II. Patton's post-battle praise rewarded success publicly, balancing criticism with recognition during World War II. This reinforcement strengthened loyalty despite harsh methods during World War II. Patton's legacy as America's most feared commander rests not on cruelty, but on calculated intensity shaped by belief and experience during World War II. He became feared because he demanded transformation, forcing individuals and units to exceed perceived limits during World War II. Patton's leadership challenged comfort, replacing it with purpose defined by urgency during World War II. He believed that war stripped away illusion, revealing true capability under pressure during World War II. Patton's command style reflected acceptance of war's brutality without romanticism, reinforcing seriousness during World War II. His fearsome reputation endured because it was grounded in results, not theater alone, during World War II. Patton's methods sparked debate then and now, reflecting enduring tension between humanity and necessity during World War II. He understood that fear could not be eliminated, only directed, a principle that defined his leadership during World War II. Patton's rise to feared status was inseparable from the scale and stakes of World War II itself. As the war progressed, his presence continued to signal impending action, shaping expectations long before engagement during World War II. Patton's name became shorthand for aggression, speed, and relentless pursuit during World War II. This transformation from officer to symbol illustrates how leadership and perception intertwined during World War II. Patton accepted the burden of fear, believing it preferable to doubt, and carried it deliberately throughout World War II. His story reveals that fear, when mastered, can become a force multiplier rather than a weakness during World War II. Patton's command demonstrates how belief, discipline, and action combined to forge reputation under extreme conditions during World War II. He remained convinced that decisive leadership shortened war, reducing suffering overall during World War II. Patton's fearsome image, forged in conflict, reflected a commander shaped as much by history as by personality during World War II. As battles continued and circumstances shifted, that reputation endured, influencing decisions on both sides long after first contact during World War II. The continuation of Patton's reputation unfolded as Allied armies pushed deeper into Europe, where fear became less about spectacle and more about expectation, as units understood that his arrival meant acceleration rather than consolidation during World War II. Officers assigned under Patton quickly learned that preparation was not optional but assumed, as he viewed unpreparedness as a moral failure rather than a technical one in World War II. This expectation created a culture of anticipatory obedience, where staff and commanders acted before orders arrived, knowing delay would be noticed and judged during World War II. Patton's intolerance for delay reshaped operational rhythm, compressing planning cycles and forcing rapid decision-making throughout Third Army during World War II. He believed that prolonged deliberation surrendered initiative, and that imperfect action preserved advantage better than flawless hesitation in World War II. This philosophy generated fear among planners accustomed to methodical processes, as Patton demanded answers in hours rather than days during World War II. Yet this pressure also sharpened performance, as staffs adapted to tempo once thought unsustainable during World War II. Patton's approach exposed weaknesses quickly, as inefficiency could not hide behind time or procedure during World War II. His fearsome presence was felt even in absence, as subordinate commanders internalized his standards and enforced them independently during World War II. This internalization marked a transition from fear of the man to fear of failing the standard he embodied during World War II. Patton encouraged this shift, believing institutional discipline mattered more than personal authority during World War II. He understood that sustainable fear must be systemic rather than personal, embedded in expectations rather than intimidation during World War II. Patton's operational orders reflected this mindset, often brief and direct, placing responsibility squarely on execution during World War II. He rejected verbose directives, believing clarity reduced anxiety and prevented rationalization of delay during World War II. This clarity reassured some commanders while unsettling others, particularly those reliant on detailed guidance during World War II. Patton's fearsome reputation extended to logistical units, as he demanded supply systems adapt to maneuver rather than constrain it during World War II. Quartermasters and transport officers faced pressure equal to frontline commanders, reinforcing that all elements were accountable during World War II. Patton believed logistics was combat by other means, and failure there deserved the same scrutiny during World War II. This perspective elevated support units while simultaneously increasing stress, as mistakes carried immediate consequences during World War II. Patton's insistence on speed forced logistical innovation, improvisation, and risk acceptance across the Army during World War II. Fuel shortages, bridge failures, and mechanical breakdowns were treated as solvable problems rather than excuses during World War II. Patton's fearsome image among his own troops softened slightly as patterns became familiar, replaced by grudging respect rooted in predictability during World War II. Soldiers understood what Patton demanded and what he tolerated, reducing uncertainty even amid pressure during World War II. This predictability became a stabilizing force, as consistency reduced rumor and speculation during World War II. Patton's intolerance for panic extended downward, as he believed fear multiplied when left unaddressed during World War II. He demanded calm reports and factual assessments, punishing exaggeration as harshly as minimization during World War II. Patton believed honesty preserved trust, even when news was bad, reinforcing discipline under stress during World War II. His insistence on forward reporting enabled faster adaptation, reinforcing tempo during World War II. Patton's fearsome reputation among enemies intensified as German commanders learned to associate his movements with sudden breakthroughs during World War II. Captured documents and interrogations revealed that German units adjusted dispositions upon confirmation of Patton's presence during World War II. This adjustment often weakened other sectors, illustrating how fear distorted enemy decision-making during World War II. Patton exploited this effect, reinforcing deception and unpredictability to amplify psychological pressure during World War II. He believed that forcing the enemy to guess wrong mattered more than overwhelming strength during World War II. Patton's command style also generated friction within Allied leadership, as his aggressiveness challenged coalition harmony during World War II. Senior commanders feared political fallout more than tactical risk, creating tension that Patton navigated cautiously during World War II. He moderated rhetoric without altering intent, preserving operational freedom while avoiding overt confrontation during World War II. This duality required discipline of a different kind, restraining impulse in public while unleashing aggression in execution during World War II. Patton's fearsome image thus operated on multiple levels, intimidating enemies, pressuring subordinates, and unsettling peers during World War II. He accepted isolation as the price of intensity, believing consensus often diluted effectiveness during World War II. Patton's private writings reveal awareness that fear alone could not sustain loyalty, requiring competence and fairness to endure during World War II. He adjusted his approach accordingly, pairing criticism with recognition to maintain cohesion during World War II. Patton's battlefield visits often combined reprimand with encouragement, reinforcing accountability without eroding morale during World War II. He believed leadership required emotional range, even if his public image suggested otherwise during World War II. Patton's reputation continued to evolve as the war dragged on, shifting from shock to expectation during World War II. Units no longer feared surprise under Patton, but the certainty of relentless demand during World War II. This certainty created a unique command climate where fear sharpened focus rather than paralyzed action during World War II. Patton's insistence on learning from failure further distinguished his leadership, as mistakes became instruction rather than stigma during World War II. He demanded correction, not contrition, reinforcing adaptability under pressure during World War II. This approach reduced concealment of error, improving operational honesty during World War II. Patton's fearsome image thus coexisted with an undercurrent of professional growth, challenging simplistic interpretations during World War II. As operations continued, Patton's name increasingly symbolized tempo itself, representing movement, decision, and pressure during World War II. Enemy units spoke of Patton not as an individual, but as an event, signaling imminent disruption during World War II. This transformation from man to symbol marked the culmination of his cultivated reputation during World War II. Patton understood that symbols outlast individuals, shaping behavior even in absence during World War II. He accepted that fear, once institutionalized, required maintenance through consistency rather than spectacle during World War II. Patton's later operations reflected this maturity, emphasizing reliability over theatrics during World War II. His command no longer relied on novelty, but on the established expectation of action during World War II. This evolution illustrates how fear, when disciplined, becomes a stable component of command rather than a volatile force during World War II. Patton's enduring impact lay not only in victories, but in reshaping how armies understood tempo, accountability, and psychological pressure during World War II. As the campaign advanced and circumstances shifted, his fearsome reputation remained a constant, shaping decisions long before contact during World War II. In this way, Patton became feared not because he was unpredictable, but because he was relentlessly consistent in demanding action under uncertainty during World War II. That consistency carried into the later phases of the campaign, where Patton's fearsome reputation no longer needed reinforcement through words or gesture, as units anticipated expectations before orders were issued during World War II. Commanders learned that silence from Patton often signaled approval, while inquiry implied concern, creating an atmosphere where initiative became the safest course during World War II. This inversion of fear altered behavior across the command, as officers feared inaction more than reprimand during World War II. Patton's standards gradually became internalized doctrine, shaping decision-making even when he was physically distant from the front during World War II. The psychological shift reduced dependency on direct oversight, allowing Patton to command larger formations without diluting tempo during World War II. He recognized this transition as success, believing true command existed when presence was no longer required during World War II. Patton's approach also influenced training replacements, as new units absorbed expectations through culture rather than instruction during World War II. Veteran officers transmitted standards informally, reinforcing fear of failure through example rather than threat during World War II. This generational transmission extended Patton's influence beyond immediate command, embedding his philosophy within broader operational practice during World War II. Patton's fearsome image among Allied peers evolved as well, shifting from concern about volatility to recognition of reliability under pressure during World War II. While disagreements persisted, superiors acknowledged that Patton delivered results within constraints, a balance difficult to achieve during World War II. This acknowledgement tempered earlier apprehension, integrating Patton more firmly into Allied operational planning during World War II. Yet Patton remained aware that fear cut both ways, recognizing that excessive pressure risked burnout and erosion of judgment during World War II. He monitored exhaustion carefully, rotating units strategically to preserve combat effectiveness during World War II. This adjustment contradicted caricatures of Patton as indifferent to human cost, revealing a more calculated approach to sustainability during World War II. Patton's fearsome reputation thus rested on expectation of excellence rather than disregard for welfare during World War II. He believed that disciplined rest was as important as disciplined advance, a lesson learned through experience during World War II. Patton's command style also shaped enemy response at the strategic level, as German leadership allocated disproportionate attention to his sector during World War II. This fixation diverted resources, unintentionally easing pressure elsewhere along the front during World War II. Patton understood that fear functioned as a force multiplier, expanding influence beyond physical reach during World War II. He cultivated unpredictability within predictable aggression, maintaining pressure while varying direction and method during World War II. This balance prevented enemy adaptation, sustaining psychological advantage during World War II. Patton's emphasis on tempo influenced post-war military thought, though often stripped of the contextual fear that made it effective during World War II. He warned privately that methods divorced from understanding risked misapplication, a concern rooted in experience during World War II. Patton's fearsome reputation also affected his personal relationships, creating distance that reinforced authority but limited intimacy during World War II. He accepted isolation as necessary, believing leadership demanded separation during World War II. Patton's private correspondence reveals awareness of loneliness, yet acceptance that command required emotional sacrifice during World War II. He believed that leaders must absorb pressure without dispersing it downward, containing fear rather than amplifying it during World War II. This containment distinguished effective fear from destructive anxiety during World War II. Patton's ability to manage this balance evolved over time, reflecting growth rather than static temperament during World War II. His early reliance on shock gradually gave way to steadier enforcement, refining his fearsome image into dependable pressure during World War II. This refinement strengthened trust among subordinates, who came to view demands as purposeful rather than arbitrary during World War II. Patton's reputation among soldiers thus stabilized into a paradoxical mix of fear and confidence during World War II. They feared disappointing him, yet trusted that his direction led toward success during World War II. This trust mitigated stress, allowing fear to sharpen focus rather than degrade morale during World War II. Patton's leadership illustrates how fear, when aligned with competence, can unify rather than fragment organizations during World War II. He rejected cruelty for its own sake, viewing fear as a means to clarity rather than dominance during World War II. Patton's enduring influence lies in this distinction, often misunderstood in simplified portrayals during World War II. As operations continued and conditions changed, Patton adapted methods without abandoning principles, sustaining fear through consistency during World War II. His command became a system rather than a personality, capable of functioning under strain during World War II. This systemic fear proved resilient, persisting through setbacks and uncertainty during World War II. Patton's belief that war-tested systems more than individuals guided his emphasis on structure and expectation during World War II. He understood that fear unmanaged collapsed systems, while fear-directed strengthened them during World War II. Patton's approach demonstrated that leadership under extreme conditions required deliberate emotional engineering during World War II. He engineered fear to motivate, discipline to stabilize, and belief to sustain momentum during World War II. This integration defined his status as America's most feared commander, not because of brutality, but because of relentless demand for performance during World War II. His reputation endured because it was continuously validated by action, not memory, during World War II. Patton's legacy challenges simplistic interpretations of fear, revealing it as a complex instrument rather than a blunt force during World War II. As the campaign pressed on, the fear associated with Patton became less about the man himself and more about the expectations he imposed, shaping conduct even beyond his immediate reach during World War II. In this way, Patton's command transformed fear from a reaction into a condition of readiness, embedding it within the operational fabric of World War II.